Our last but not least is SleepStats and their phenomenal development partner, BrickSimple. Please welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Milind Patel. I'm a resident physician in the UPenn Health System. I'd like to discuss our app, SleepStats, today. So, very simply, this is the current problem. Home sleep studies, they're expensive, they're complex, they're invasive, and this gentleman does not appear too happy right now. Sleep apnea has wide health effects. It's following the same trend as obesity, hypertension, diabetes. If you have moderate to severe sleep apnea, you have a 4-to-1 mortality rating. This is an industry that's continuing to grow. Since 2012, it was $3.8 billion, and it's projected to grow at about 8% every year. So our solution, it's a very data-driven, data-gathered, data-focused application. We start with the Stop Bang questionnaire. It's a questionnaire used to pre-screen patients. We can then give customers a high risk, intermediate risk, or a low risk pre-test score. And then right now, thanks to our amazing developer, Det from BrickSimple, we actually have a live functioning prototype. And we're currently able to integrate into multiple pieces of hardware that are able to get us this kind of information. The utility of a questionnaire, as well as a simple pulse ox, a pulse oxygenation measurement, which you can buy off the shelf for about $25, gets us a 93% sensitivity when compared to a in-lab sleep study. And we're currently working with doctors over at the Sleep Center at the University of Pennsylvania as well, who are entrepreneurial and have a background in sleep. So what we plan to do right now, we're planning with the $50,000 to refine the prototype application to help us get to beta and then help us expand our network of hardware. Now the beautiful part of this app is that we're actually not owning any hardware. That's one of the biggest challenges in the medical app space. So we're able to integrate with multiple pieces of hardware without actually owning any of them. And then we can use some of our initial data to validate our data collection, do some real-world testing, and then build a product for launch. Our customer acquisition plan, very simply. So there's 3 CPT codes that cover this area. Between the 3 of them, they generate, at minimum, last data was $750 million just amongst these 3. Average cost per sleep study at home was $750. Ours would come in significantly cheaper than that. And just to clarify, we're not diagnostic at all. We're data gathering, so we're not having to deal with some of the same regulatory issues as a lot of other groups would have to. And the beauty of our model, it's very similar to a spoke and hub model. The hub would be our app. The spoke would be several sensors, pulse oximeter, EEG. It could be, life vests. It could be temperature measurements. This can expand quite broadly for the entire sleep market. And then we're going to plan to use the University of Pennsylvania Health System, which has a lot of reach as far as value-added proposition. This is going to be very disruptive for the home sleep study market, but very complementary and value-added for the sleep labs. We're going to be funneling a lot of our customers to say, hey, listen, you're intermediate to high risk. Maybe you should go to a sleep lab. Maybe you should get a full study done at the University of Pennsylvania. And our goal is to have a free app. Devices are bought independently and purchased and help build our user base that way. So with that being said, there's a lot of growth opportunities. Resale of metadata is, I think, a very intriguing one. CMS, a Center for Medicare Services, as well as a lot of accountable care organizations are paying to learn more about their constituents. So right now there's ACOs giving out Fitbits just to have a better understanding for why certain patients have back pain. And then we can use a lot of other traditional sales methods in order to help us grow our revenue, as well as having in-app purchases and platform partnerships down the line. And once again, we will be using the benefit of being integrated into Penn's health system. So I'd like to introduce our team. My name is, once again, Milind Patel. I am a resident physician. We have Det here, who's from BrickSimple. He's got over 20 years of award-winning programming. We have Charlie Patel, who just happens to be my brother. He's also a co-founder of this. And then our mentor is Glenn Hill. He has years and years of healthcare IT experience. He's got a legal background as well as an engineering background. And just has years of experience working for Siemens in the diagnostic category, as well as, healthcare IT. And with that, I'd like to open up to questions and invite you to come check out the prototype that Charlie actually has on right now. And
Charlie's wearing both a hexaskin sensor shirt to measure his breathing rate, and as well as a pulse ox, and the application combines that data together to chart and trend so it can be shared with a healthcare practitioner.
thank you very much. Yes?
Somebody has to wear that while they're sleeping, like that thing on their finger?
They can. It's actually quite comfortable to sleep in. We actually thought it was going to be a little bit bulkier before we ordered it, but it's actually very thin, very easy to sleep in. Once again, just to emphasize, this is one piece of hardware. There's many others that are out there, and there's obviously, everyone knows that wearables are continuing to evolve. There's going to be more improvements in wearables as well, but yes, right now at the minimum basic, the 93% sensitivity that I spoke of was between a questionnaire and that pulse oxygenator, which you can buy off the shelf for about $25.
But you're not dependent on the hardware, it's your...
Correct.
So you said it's 93% sensitive compared to a questionnaire. Have you run a sensitivity test compared to a lab-based sleep study?
So that would be part of what we would use the $50,000 for. That's what we're partnering with the Penn Sleep Lab for right now. And we're looking into that. And, just based off of studies that are currently out there, there does seem like there would be, between the survey itself, the questionnaire, as well as the pulse ox, you'd be at 93%. With the range of hardware that we could integrate with, I have no doubt that we could get that much higher. And just to emphasize, this would be more pre-diagnostic, not necessarily diagnostic, to help funnel customers into a sleep lab, to bring more awareness about it. The reason that 20% of Americans are affected is because no one's talking about this. We're talking about obesity and diabetes, but not sleep apnea.
Yeah, and I was going to ask on that point, I mean, is this replacing the sleep studies, or are we essentially going to have both in the queue where I go through your process and then I also go through the full boat sleep study and it's actually extra cost?
So that's a great question. So back in, I want to say 2008, Medicare realized that they're missing a whole bunch of people that they're not discussing it. There's no clue of who has sleep apnea and who doesn't. The traditional in-sleep lab study was thousands of dollars, so they approved these home sleep studies. That gentleman at the beginning of the presentation is an example of a home sleep study. That's our current competitor. That's what we would hope to, that's the model that we would hope to disrupt and to replace. And then by that model, because we're coming in at $20 versus $800, we're able to then get a better idea of how many people are actually intermediate or high risk and then funnel them towards the sleep labs.
Do you plan on continuing with Det and his team to deliver?
I do.
Okay.
Given that the actual sensors that you're using are all third-party, off-the-shelf stuff, none of that's proprietary, what's the piece that you guys are bringing? Is it effectively bringing all the data together and dashboarding it?
Sure. So there's a lot of pulse oxes that are out there right now. They're measuring your pulse rate, they're measuring your pulse oxygenation, but no one thought, hey, let's combine this with maybe a temperature monitor. Let's combine this with your perfusion index, with your chest rise. And that's essentially what we're doing. In addition to that, like I said, as a spoke and hub model, we're starting as our app being the data aggregator and the hub for all of this. Each one of the spokes are different pieces of hardware that we're able to then integrate. And I think it appeals to, when I simply explain it, it appeals to the sleepies, the patients that are sleeping and trying to sleep better, and it appeals to the geekies that want to learn a little bit more about their own health and their own body. So, any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.